Welcome back to Inside Track with Bruce Ash on the Live the Dream Media Network. Now back to our show.
Welcome back to Inside Track with Bruce and Eb. This portion of the show brought to you by Wilkinson Wealth Management. Eb helps gun owners with their retirement accounts. He does a great job for my family, and he'll do the same for your family. Call him today at 520-777-1911. Inside Track also brought to you by our family's 60-year-old commercial real estate company, Paul Ash Commercial Real Estate. Our good friend Eric Ruden's great company, Essential Pest Control. Our business relies on the service of his great team. Call for the Essential Pros at 886-3029. And finally, if you need steel products for your home, business, or ranch or farm, call Jamie Kipper at Tucson Iron and Metal Surplus. I bought all of our home's corrugated steel, fencing, and storage area materials from Jamie and Craig. They do a fabulous job there. You got to see everything they have. Call her at 209-1576 or go to the yard at 701 East 36th Street. Now, our friend, Captain Bob Wells. Bruce and I are very pleased that our friend and longtime defense and foreign policy contributor, retired U.S. Navy Captain Robert Wells, could join us this morning. Thanks for coming in, Bob, to our new studio. What do you think? A little different than that old place we used to go to, right?
With the East German radio equipment.
It's really a pleasure being here. Thank you very much, Bruce. Good to see Eb again as well.
Yeah.
Good to see you, Bob.
And you've been traveling, done some great stuff with your family. I love the pictures that you sent me from France and in Spain, I think.
We went to Spain first.
Yeah.
And then we had a side trip over to Morocco. We went to Tangier.
Wow.
Saw the Casbah.
Oh, my.
How was that?
It was incredible. You know, it's
I want to see that.
It's really a historic place. It's definitely a destination if you have a chance to go there.
Yeah, I wanted to go there for a long. It's the only place in Africa I want to go.
And we went to D-Day, the D-Day beaches. We saw Omaha Beach, walked to Omaha Beach, and then finalized it with a trip to Paris.
Yeah, we were there D-Day plus 80. Yeah, quite a. There's no way to describe it. President Donald Trump got his big, beautiful bill passed and signed on July 4th. I refer to it as the mostly aesthetically pleasing bill. As a retired naval officer and national security advisor, two different presidential administrations. Do I recall correctly? Worked
Yes.
in the Clinton and Bush 43. As far as defense and national security, how beautiful is the bill?
It's very beautiful. And in fact, one of the more beautiful things about it is the timing. Just to set the table here, if you recall, before the president was elected, we had a continuing resolution, a full continuing resolution. And it's important for defense planners and all the services to basically have commitment so they can use the actual funding that's approved outside of a CR to have new program starts. So it really is important for modernization. So this particular timing of having the big, beautiful bill passed on the 4th of July was really important. We're, 3 months before the end of the fiscal year. We needed to have certitude. And this is basically really a return of peace through strength.
Yeah. Probably this kind of a bill hasn't happened in how many years now?
Well, this type of bill hasn't happened probably since the end of the Cold War. If you look at Mr. Clinton and what we did with the peace dividend,
right?
And we took risk and basically put more money going toward domestic items at that time at the end of the Cold War. That was our strategic assumption. But we're in a different strategic environment right now, and this big, beautiful bill in particular starts the strategic investments, which are critically important.
So renaming ships.
Well, the renaming ship, yes, but more important than that is really looking
building
at
ships.
Is building ships, and the president's done an important job. If you recall, on a previous Inside Track, we've had this former Secretary of Navy Lehman on board.
Right.
Talked about the need for shipbuilding programs, and this basically has provided the seed money for 2 more guided missile destroyers and another Virginia-class SSN. So this is also a focus of shipbuilding and rebuilding the labor force. That's a critically important area as well, having commitment to the shipbuilding program. And just this week, originally it was at the National Security Council, but it moved over with some key leaders that I know actually to the Office of Management and Budget. So we're actually going to have an investment strategy. It's going to take 6 years to basically enable the investment strategy for our shipyards, for maintenance. As they say in the Navy, you can't sail on yesterday's wind.
So are we funding for the next 6 years building these ships? Is the money there in this bill?
It is until 2029. It enables the capability, but some of the other strategic components involve the strategic triad. We have the new Columbia-class SSBN, which is going to replace the Trident SSBN. That needed to be done. Also, the president has the Golden Dome, and he's focused on integrated air and missile defense for the United States, and that's all part of this big, beautiful bill as well.
Talk about the Golden Dome for a second. We know that it's effective over in Israel. What threat does he see that we're not seeing that we need to be concerned about?
Well, the threat is in the future, but it's also in the present. If you look at how ballistic missiles could be delivered, if you look at the lessons learned in Iran in particular, there are capabilities where you could put ballistic missiles on board container ships, and they could basically sail in proximity of the United States. We don't inspect all the different containers, but that's certainly a potential risk. This is a bigger country, obviously, than Israel. If you look at the missile and the satellite in particular, capabilities to detect and get the actual missiles and track them in boost phase, you need to be closer to the actual launch point. So he's looking at it from the perspective of protecting key infrastructure in the United States. We do have now some of that capability, obviously, with the Patriot batteries. We're looking at what the Israelis have with the Iron Dome capability, but that's going to be a good focus area for strategic missile interdiction. We also have the capability to launch intercontinental ballistic missiles and have tested it out at Kwajalein with regard to intercepting missiles that could come from North Korea. That was the big focus area, if you recall, Bruce, about 5 or 6 years ago, especially with Hawaii and the president's previous discussions with President Kim Jong-un.
What about defense of Japan? Are they going to, from missile attack, are they going to be on their own, or will some of these weapons be available in Japan?
Japan and the United States have Patriot capabilities. The Japan and the United States have the strongest security relationship really since 1960. Even though we have trade discussions, if you look at the relationship with Japan, we have a permanently home-ported aircraft carrier. We have our permanently home-ported Marine Corps lift at Sasebo. We have that relationship with Okinawa, which is our 3rd Marine Expeditionary Force. So Japan needs to have that particular protection. They have Aegis destroyers. If you look at the Japanese Navy, it's an incredibly capable Navy that can do some of the same things that the United States Navy can do with our Standard Missile and our vertical launch capabilities.
Yep.
What about Taiwan?
Well, Taiwan is, if I understand it correctly, the president's been talking with President Xi and underscored, because of this trade discussion, reiterated the Taiwan Relations Act of 1996, which is
that's a good step.
Which is a good step, and we have the still responsibility to defend, provide defensive capability to Taiwan inside. Not the big, beautiful bill, but in the FY26, which is the next bill coming up. Really, the big, beautiful bill is the down payment.
Sure.
For at least $1 trillion in defense spending coming in through FY26 when it starts on October 1st. But with regard to the focus on Taiwan, we'll provide them foreign military sales. We still have the F-16 program supporting Taiwan. Taiwan also has the 4 former Ayatollah-class guided missile destroyers that we were building for Iran. We used them in the U.S. Navy. Now they're over in Kaohsiung supporting the naval capability. Very capable ships, but again, they're old. They're built in 1982. So Taiwan is still part of the defense planning, and we also have the relationship with Japan, which supports defensive measures on the southern portion, the Western Army Group of Japan, with the Shinkaku Islands in between Okinawa and Japan. So that area is not going away, and we are dedicated under the Taiwan Relations Act to support defense capability for Taiwan.
So let me ask this question. this is maybe the most money we've spent on defense ever.
That's true.
Yet, some of the people who've been calling for disarmament for years in this country, both media as well as governmental people, say, well, the president's demanding 5% of European nations in NATO to come up, with their defense spending. We're only spending 3%. Is that really, given the enormous amount of money we're spending, even if it's not 5%, this is a massive buildup, isn't it? And are those kind of criticisms fair?
Those criticisms actually should be moot. If you think about the responsibilities of the nation states inside of NATO themselves, we've been trying to do this for 20 years.
Yeah.
With Mr. Bush, when we focused on trying to get the defense, a little bit better defense capability for, in particular, Germany and Spain.
And Spain still is refusing to up their defense spending.
But we need to have the focus on the Pacific. And this is an important pivot with regard to our defense capabilities. If the Europeans do more and defend against Russian Federation encroachment, and we have the defense capability which provides deterrence, which is what you would always want to try to achieve, then the United States has the investment strategies, which is part of the big, beautiful bill, part of the FY26 budget, to basically pivot to the Pacific. And we've been trying to do that with the Pacific Deterrence Initiatives. We tried to do it during the Obama administration as well. But Mr. Trump actually enabled capability. Another thing, too, it's an important point on NATO and 5%. We have other defense relationships and alliances.
Sure.
We have 5 of them in the Pacific. We have Japan, we have the Philippines, Thailand, Australia, and South Korea. And they all have very important defense capability, and they have access of U.S. forces positioned in Australia and Philippines. Really good Extended Defense Cooperation Act with the Philippines. We're in a whole bunch of bases.
The Philippines has a legitimate fear
Yes, they do.
of what's going on with the Communist Chinese defense or military right now, correct?
That's correct. And they continue to try to get, obviously, the South China Sea is where you've got, over the last 10 years, the development of all the different quote-unquote islands. And you have the Chinese Coast Guard, which continues to enforce its maritime
That
claims.
coast is a very, very large
It's
part
a
of water
large-
these days,
it's-
growing by the day.
It is. And they actually poke the Philippines quite often. And we provided a former U.S. Coast Guard cutter for the Philippines. But the Philippines is also a staging place for the U.S. Marine Corps, for our efforts with the 3rd Marine Expeditionary Force. We're going to have the U.S. Army. Never forget the U.S. Army with regard to its land-based surface-to-surface missile capability, like you have with the capabilities that we provided to Ukraine for long-range missiles. So the Chinese we're trying to establish deterrence in the Philippines. I think we have established deterrence. We exercise with them all the time. But this is an important area, the Philippines, for us, as well as Japan. That's not going to go away.
Yep.
It's amazing the amount of ground that we have lost in the last 4 years that we have to make up for right now. And, aside from the trillions of dollars or, the billions of dollars going into the military, I found it really interesting that there's going to be $9 billion set aside specifically for military families and service members' morale, health, and well-being.
Absolutely. This is called the quality of life provisions within the big, beautiful bill. This is focusing in on Marine barracks, looking at the quality of life. Military spouses, you got to always think of the people. Think of your troops, think of your families. That's a fundamental with regard to readiness. We are still all volunteer in the armed forces, and our recruitment is up, and we have to basically reestablish better quality of life during this point forward and provide more modern equipment, also in a new particular posture for the United States going forward, particularly in East Asia.
What about autonomous vehicles as opposed to manned aircraft and manned seagoing vessels?
That's an important point. We've been continuing to experiment with it. Northrop Grumman makes the X-47, which is a unmanned winged aircraft. The Big Beautiful Bill supports some of that seed money FY26 also, but that capability will be able to support carrier-launched unmanned aerial vehicles. And we've been experimenting with regard to placement in a particular air wing, loiter time on board the ships. Everyone in the audience knows Top Gun and Tom Cruise and the F-14s. Well, we don't have F-14s anymore in our carriers, and we have.
I think we killed the last of them a few weeks ago in Iran.
I think so. I think so. We have F-18s, and I've been on 2 or 3 carriers during that era when we had Vector Logic and the combat air patrols against the Soviet Bear. We need to have longer range loitered capability that is air launched, that we don't risk the pilot's life, but at the same time we get that key surveillance. So, but we do have also the unmanned lessons learned from Ukraine, the unmanned vehicles that are being aligned and innovatively tested in groups in the U.S. Army, not too far from here, the Army Proving Ground, which does some of that testing, but that's going to be more prominent with regard to providing deterrent capability, knowing that we have that capability against an adversary.
So if I can ask this is seed money.
Yes.
It goes for a long period of time. Who's going to be watching within DoD? How closely, and who is going to be watching these contracts from blowing up and costing 2 times or 3 times or 4 times what they might have cost?
That's always the concern with regard to contract management. Each of the services have their own contract managers. The equip, train, and provide, that's the Pentagon. It's not an operational command. They equip the armed forces, they train, they provide capabilities to the armed forces. Now, inside of each service staff and the DoD staff, they have bean counters, or people that watch the expenditures of the dollars that have been appropriated, and they're aligned against each of the requirements, each of the programs, and the burn rate. We have to look at the burn rate, for example, from Lockheed Martin on the F-35 aircraft. We've had overruns for 10 years. As new capabilities continue to be put on the platform, engineers cost money. Same thing with shipbuilding, with the new shipbuilding classes. We've got the Constellation class, which was procured, or the first steel is being bent for that ship, but it's going to have cost overrun. Finally, the new USS John F. Kennedy. If you look at that particular ship, she's following the USS Gerald R. Ford, who's in the Mediterranean right now. But we had cost overruns and delays.
A big one on the Ford.
Big one on the type and the quality of doors. So you have different forces, centrifugal forces at work with regard to pull away from cost, and that gets into not just the engineering cost but the labor cost. You have to have qualified on submarine programs. You have to have qualified welders. You have to have particular knowledge of actual engineering change proposals which occur at the yard. So,
is there training included? Because we don't have enough certified welders.
No.
We don't have enough qualified pipe fitters and all the other and electricians to do this sort of work. And it's mind-boggling what goes inside of ships and mind-boggling what goes inside of aircraft, right?
One of the key points that you have just made, Bruce, also Mike Rowe, Mr. Blue Collar, has made recently, and that is the American workforce. If you look at what needs to be done with regard to the future for Generation Z and looking at people like myself that grew up, 40, 50 years ago, the fact is that we have a gap right now with regard to the qualified personnel. Some of the Build Back Better has the seed money to support those particular trade developments, and looking at the shipyards in particular, what needs to be done to support building the ships again.
I was listening to Mike Rowe. There's about 100,000 welders needed right now for the shipbuilding that they don't have.
And this is a job. It's a career.
It's a career. It's not just a job. This is a career, and this is a high-paying career that somebody coming right out of high school can basically, they can't step into it. They got to learn how to weld first, but
Look, it's almost as important to this nation's security than the men and women who are actually putting on a uniform and fighting for this country, defending this country. These men and women in these construction trades are every bit as important, and I'm hoping that there is the kind of focus on making sure that we have enough labor, because sadly, kids these days don't even know what a stick shift, car is anymore. Right?
And by the way, the 100,000, that's just for the submarines. That's not for any of the other ships.
Wow.
But I do think if the word gets out and there's some credibility with regard, and you have to push the I believe button, that these
Right.
investments are going to basically pass through the contract management, that they're going to get to the actual managers that need the resources to support not only the shipbuilding program, but aircraft maintenance program. We need to have skilled personnel to maintain all of our aircraft. We're buying more helicopters.
Right.
We're supporting more National Guard capabilities. So this is a tremendous opportunity. It could be a renaissance.
Talk about the Raider. Is that the F-21?
This is a possibility of a new fighter aircraft, 6th generation aircraft, and just like the B-21, which is a
B-21, yeah.
which is a strategic bomber, that's been in development actually for the last 10 years, and it was a follow-on to the B-2 bomber, the successful B-2 bombers that conducted the strikes in Iran. So it's going to probably go to Whiteman Air Force Base. It has particular capabilities. I know that it is part of our strategic bombing force. And they're flying it for test purposes right now. I don't know exactly where. Maybe out at China Lake or out at Edwards Air Force Base.
And by the way,
It's at Edwards.
report came out yesterday. Fordo was killed.
Okay.
Okay, that report came out yesterday definitively.
Okay.
Okay, the other two facilities, which were the minor ones that they thought for sure they had completely destroyed, those are possibly able to come back into production relatively soon. But the good news is those bombers knocked the hell out of Fordo.
They sure did. And the Iranian foreign minister, prime time 2 days ago, was the one that confirmed that as well.
Exactly. That's the beauty of it. He wasn't Baghdad Bob,
Nope.
Oh, my God.
So where are the gaps? What isn't being provided in this portion of the very pretty and aesthetic looking big bill?
Well, for the listeners, again, this is only $150 billion. It is legislated, which means it can be used. It supports and goes along with the FY25 continuing resolution, which did have some trading space there. The real meat and potatoes, the muscle movement, and the good news is Congress actually is returned to regular order with regard to the House Armed Services Committee. They had the chairman's mark, and they voted it, and it's $835 billion that'll go along with this $150 billion. So where the gaps are, we have a force structure that needs to have modernization. Our gaps relate to time. And this gets back into, you can't just turn a switch and produce ships. It's going to take, about 6 years to bring the force structure and modernize it. We're going to decommission some ships. In the new bill, we're going to add, I think it's 16 ships, and we're also going to build the Columbia-class SSBN. The Air Force has F-35s, B-2s. The Marine Corps gets the CH-47s, which is part of the assault echelon, which is a good thing. They're also getting some brand new 53s.
Thank God.
The National Guard is going to get some additional KC-130s, which is really good, 130Js. And one of the more important things where we've got the gap has been in the Coast Guard. And this gets into the focus, which is this is the future with regard to dealing with fentanyl as a national security, drug enforcement, and the Northern Arctic. And the Coast Guard's budget's going to get doubled to $24 billion. They're renaming the 17th Coast Guard station in Alaska the Arctic Command. And,
Very interesting.
And the Coast Guard also operates under the U.S. Southern Command. One of the issues that will be discussed, and you'll hear more of this, and it has impact here in Tucson in particular, is the proposal by the House Armed Services Committee to move Mexico as part of the Unified Command Plan from U.S. Northern Command in Colorado Springs to U.S. Southern Command based in Miami.
Any thoughts on the relevancy or the value of doing that?
Yes, in terms of planning, U.S. Southern Command has a more robust interagency capability. It's on the East Coast. They have the Joint Interagency Task Force out of Key West. They focus on drug enforcement and building partner capacity in Latin America. And it coincides also with Marco Rubio being the Secretary of State, fluent in Spanish, also having the relationship in the Latin American area. And we can focus on law enforcement missions of the Coast Guard. And this gets into Homeland Security Department, which is where Coast Guard's vested. And that covers our Customs and Border Patrol, our Coast Guard relationship, as well as the Air and Marine relationship with the U.S. Coast Guard. So you can have a more robust Southern capability with a different command structure. It's going to take a couple years, but the planners, just like we did with U.S. Central Command, will be able to focus on the cartels, about shipments of fentanyl and drugs in the United States, about shipments of fentanyl precursors from China into Mexico, and have better fidelity with regard to command. NORTHCOM focuses on the Arctic now, and also focuses on Greenland, focuses on relationship with the Russians in the Arctic area as well. So it's a different national security environment, which is compelling these particular discussions on the Hill. The good news is that it's in the FY26 bill. I'm sure our listeners, Inside Track, will be listening about how this is going to work out. For Tucson in particular, the 12th Air Force is the component of the U.S. Southern Command.
Eb, one final question from you.
I think I'm all done.
Well, Bob, thank you very much. This is as high a level briefing as a civilian is entitled to, I think. And coming from a professional like you is quite a remarkable thing.
Oh, one more thing. The good news is there's going to be $21 billion set aside to rebuild up all our munitions.
I'm glad.
And that's huge.
I'm glad you
That
mentioned
is
it because that is a big deal.
That's a big deal, and it has to be done because this gets into Standard Missile. This gets into what's happening off the Houthis' Red Sea. Standard Missile 3, what we did to support protection of Israel with Standard Missile 3. We need to replenish that capability. Also, 155 millimeter ammunition to support and Patriot batteries. So there's a lot there with regard to the big beautiful bill.
All right.
B cubed. But
thank
you very much.
We're going to
Bruce.
leave it there. Thanks for coming on the show today, Bob. Another great briefing. Many thanks also to the author of The Great American Retro Road Trip, Rolando Pujol, for being our guest today. All of our Inside Track podcasts are available on Live the Dream Media's Facebook page, YouTube, Spotify, Instagram, and X. Thanks for joining us today. Until next Wednesday when we return, this is Bruce Ash.
Bob Wells.
And Eb Wilkinson.
Wishing you a very good day. Be sure to join us again in 167 hours. What a great show.
It's termite season.
Hi, it's me.
And bugs fear the blue trucks from Essential Pest Control. Go blue at Essential Pest Control. We'll eliminate those bugs, bees, and termites. And stop paying too much to that national provider. Buy local for great service and affordable rates. Call Essential Pest Control because termites fear the blue.
Run for your life.
Call for the blue trucks from Essential Pest Control. 886-3029. That's 886-3029. Or check online at essentialpest.com.
This is Eb Wilkinson with Wilkinson Wealth Management, where we manage money for gun owners. What does it mean to retire comfortably and remain comfortably retired? It means designing a plan that allows you to do the things you want to do, outpace inflation, and never run out of money in your lifetime. If you want to retire comfortably and remain comfortably retired, call me, Eb Wilkinson, at 777-1911. That's 777-1911 or WilkinsonWealthMGMT.com.
I'm proud to welcome my good friends at Tucson Iron and Metal Retail to Inside Track as an advertiser. Jamie Kipper and her staff are conservation experts. They sell round and square steel tubing, metal plate and roofing materials, as well as new and used steel, aluminum, and stainless steel to ranchers, artists, interior designers, roofers, as well as you do-it-yourselfers out there. Tucson Iron and Metal Retail is open Monday through Fridays, 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m., and Saturdays, 8 a.m. to noon. Tucson Iron and Steel Retail, 701 East 36th Street. Call 520-209-1576. That's 520-209-1576, or go to TucsonIronRetail.com. Come by and be sure to ask for Jamie. Tucson Iron and Steel Retail. This is what conservation and repurposing is all about.